Somebody said the closer you get to the microphone, the farther you get from the truth. Think it through.
Gloria Gaither stood beside her husband, Bill, as the soulful heart of gospel music. But now, with a fragile voice and tearful honesty, she sang goodbye. Not just to the stage, but possibly to all of us. What happened behind the scenes that led to this emotional farewell? And why are fans around the world bracing for the most heartbreaking chapter yet? Gloria Gaither has long been more than just the wife of gospel music icon Bill Gaither. She's been the heart and soul behind some of the most powerful songs in Christian music history. As co-writer of countless Gaither classics in the poetic voice behind many of their lyrics, Gloria has touched lives around the world with her deep faith and timeless words. But now, at 82 years old, Gloria has shared a heartfelt message with fans, one that signals a turning point in her journey. In a recent video released by the Gaither music group, Gloria appeared visibly emotional as she thanked fans for decades of love, prayers, and unwavering support. There comes a time, she began, her voice trembling slightly, when you feel a gentle tug on your heart, a sense that God is calling you to a quieter season. Though she did not explicitly say the words retirement, Gloria hinted at stepping away from public appearances and large events. Instead, she plans to spend more time with family, focusing on writing, reflection, and moments of stillness. A stark contrast from the decades of touring, performing, and ministry. Before the world knew her as a legendary lyricist and the matriarch of Southern gospel, Gloria Gaither was simply Gloria Sickle. Born on March 4, 1942 in Michigan into a family rooted in Christian faith and strong moral values. Raised in a nurturing home with a deep respect for education, literature, and music, Gloria showed an early gift for language and expression. She was a bright student, passionate about writing, poetry, and the arts. After high school, Gloria attended Anderson University, a small Christian college in Indiana, where she pursued a degree in English. There she cultivated not only her intellect, but also her spiritual foundation, something that would later pour into every song she wrote. It was during her time at Anderson that Gloria crossed paths with a young, energetic music teacher named Bill Gaither. At first, they were just colleagues. Bill had already begun dabbling in gospel music, forming the Bill Gaither Trio with his brother and sister, but it didn't take long before their shared passion for faith and creativity drew them closer. The two married in 1962, and that partnership would go on to change the landscape of Christian music forever. At first, Gloria continued teaching English at Alexandria High School, while Bill pursued music full-time, but her knack for lyrics and her deep poetic insight began finding their way into the trio's songs. Bill composed melodies, and Gloria, with her gift for language, gave them life with powerful, heartfelt lyrics that resonated with millions. Her breakthrough moment came with the now iconic hymn, Because He Lives, written during a turbulent time in their lives, while expecting their third child and amid a season of national unrest. By the late 1960s, Gloria and Bill Gaither were living what many would have called the perfect Christian life. They were happily married, raising a young family, and pouring their hearts into ministry. Through music. But beneath the surface, they were facing one of the most emotionally and spiritually trying times of their lives. The world was in turmoil. The Vietnam War was raging. The civil rights movement was shaking the nation. College campuses were erupting in protest, and traditional Christian values were being openly challenged. At the same time, the Gaithers were personally navigating their own uncertainties. Bill was battling exhaustion from nonstop touring and ministry pressures, and Gloria, pregnant with their third child, found herself overwhelmed by anxiety about the kind of world they were bringing a child into. In the midst of this emotional storm, they leaned on their faith, and something remarkable happened. While praying and seeking comfort, Gloria felt a wave of peace and a renewed assurance in God's promises. It was in that quiet, deeply spiritual moment that the words to "Because He Lives" began to form. The lyrics didn't come from a place of ease. They were born out of struggle, fear, and the desperate need for hope. And that's why they struck such a deep chord with millions. The song was recorded in 1971 and quickly became a global anthem for Christians facing hardship. It was more than a hymn. It was a declaration of trust in a God who holds the future, no matter how uncertain the present may feel. The success of "Because He Lives" catapulted the Gaithers and Gloria in particular into a new realm of influence. Suddenly, she was no longer just the wife of a gospel singer or a behind-the-scenes writer. She was being recognized as a profound theological voice, a poet whose words could move both the heart and soul. And yet, even as the spotlight grew brighter, Gloria remained grounded. She continued to write prolifically, not just songs, but devotionals, books, and reflections that offered wisdom on faith, family, and purpose. With Bill, she went on to co-write more than 700 songs, many of which became staples in churches across the world. But perhaps what made Gloria's contribution so unique was the way she infused her lyrics with both deep theology and raw humanity. She didn't write from a pedestal. She wrote from the trenches of real life, from motherhood, from the ministry, from grief, from joy. During the 1970s and 1980s, as the Gaither vocal band gained popularity in the Homecoming video series was born, Gloria's presence remained steady and influential. Though she was rarely the one with a microphone in hand, her voice was everywhere, in every lyric, every prayer, every moment that touched an audience. This period also saw her becoming a mentor to younger Christian artists and a sought-after speaker at women's conferences. Her calm, reflective style, paired with her intellectual depth, made her a rare presence in a male-dominated industry. Her gift wasn't just in what she wrote. It was in how deeply she understood the human soul, the struggles of everyday life, and the enduring hope of faith. As the Gaither trio evolved into the Gaither vocal band, and the Homecoming series took off, Gloria remained a quiet strength behind it all, writing, speaking, and ministering with unmatched grace and wisdom. And now, as she steps back from the public eye, fans look back not only at her contributions to gospel music, but at the extraordinary journey that led a small-town teacher to become a pillar of faith through song. As the 1970s and 1980s unfolded, Gloria Gaither solidified her position as a quiet revolutionary in the world of gospel music. While her husband Bill often stood front and center, Gloria's voice was the steady current beneath their creative and spiritual legacy. Her influence wasn't loud, but it was profound. The Gaither Vocal Band and later the Gaither Homecoming series became household staples among Christian families in America and beyond. Their music wasn't just about performance. It was ministry. And Gloria's songwriting brought a depth and literary elegance that stood apart in the genre. In a field often dominated by cliché and repetition, Gloria's lyrics were rich with theological insight, poetic imagery, and emotional truth. She had a way of making doctrine personal, of turning the grand mysteries of God into lines that could be sung by ordinary people walking through grief, joy, doubt, and faith. One of her most remarkable contributions was the sense of narrative she brought to gospel music. Gloria didn't just write choruses. She told stories, whether it was the journey from darkness to light, despair to hope, or death to resurrection. Her songs carried a literary weight that resonated deeply. She understood the arc of redemption, not just in scripture, but in human life, and she translated that understanding into lyrics that continue to move hearts today. In addition to her musical work, Gloria became a voice for Christian women across generations. At a time when few women held prominent theological or creative roles in Christian music, she broke quiet barriers. She was not a performer in glitter or heels, nor was she confined to the role of a pastor's wife singing backup. Gloria was an intellectual, a mother, a thinker, and a spiritual guide, all wrapped in one. She authored dozens of devotionals, spiritual journals, and reflective essays, often exploring the intersections of faith, culture, identity, and family. Her writings became lifelines for women navigating motherhood, ministry, and the silent burdens of life. She was honest about struggles. She didn't pretend to have all the answers, but she knew how to point people to the one who did. Her legacy also includes a rich investment in the next generation. Gloria was deeply involved in education and discipleship, co-founding the Gaither Family Resources Center and the Gaither Homecoming Bible. Through her mentorship and platform, she opened doors for younger gospel artists, particularly women, who looked up to her not just as a songwriter, but as a role model. In a world increasingly focused on celebrity and image, Gloria remained steadfastly focused on substance. She once said, "We never set out to be stars. We set out to be faithful." That commitment has made all the difference. Behind every lyric Gloria Gaither ever wrote was a life deeply lived. She was never flashy. She rarely sought attention. But anyone who spent even a moment in her presence could feel the quiet gravity of her soul. Her faith wasn't performative. It was lived, practiced, tested, and refined in the furnace of real life. Gloria's greatest ministry was in the way she showed up in everyday life. Friends describe her as a listener, thoughtful, discerning. She didn't fill silence with noise. She filled it with peace. In meetings, she was the one who asked the deeper question. In a crisis, she was the one who brought calm. As a wife, she was fiercely loyal. She and Bill navigated over 6 decades of marriage, not just as partners in music, but as true soulmates. Their relationship was not without its challenges. Raising 3 children on the road, managing a sprawling ministry, and shouldering public expectations all took their toll. But through it all, Gloria remained a grounding force. As a mother, she was intentional and nurturing. Her children recall a mom who was always present, even when her schedule overflowed. She wrote songs late at night after the kids were asleep. She took long walks, had long talks, and taught her children not just about Jesus, but about compassion, honesty, and responsibility. As a friend, she was loyal and wise. She mentored not only artists, but writers, pastors, and thinkers, many of whom credit her with shaping their understanding of Christian vocation. She had a rare ability to see the gifts in others and call them out with love. And as a woman of faith, Gloria Gaither stood as a bridge between tradition and the future. She revered the hymns of old, but wasn't afraid to ask hard questions. She held the biblical truth but also held space for complexity. Her faith wasn't afraid of nuance. It was deep enough to carry it. Her life became a testimony of what it means to live well, not just publicly but privately. She showed that success in ministry is not measured by fame but by faithfulness. That a song is only as powerful as the life behind it. And that the truest form of greatness is to be a servant. Even now, as she steps back from the public eye, Gloria leaves behind more than a catalog of beloved hymns. She leaves a legacy of wisdom, of grace, of resilience. Her songs will continue to be sung in churches, at funerals, in quiet hospital rooms, and joyful family gatherings for generations to come. But perhaps even more importantly, her example will continue to inspire men and women to live lives of meaning, humility, and unwavering faith. In the words she gave us, it seems only fitting to let her own lyrics echo in this moment of farewell. God sent his Son. They called him Jesus. He came to love, heal, and forgive. He lived and died while the world knows Gloria Gaither for her poetic lyrics and spiritual depth. Those closest to her know that her first ministry has always been her family. Behind every concert, every song, every book, there was always home. And that home was filled with laughter, long conversations, music, and faith. She and Bill Gaither raised 3 children, Suzanne, Amy, and Benjamin. Each one has been touched by their parents' ministry, yet shaped by Gloria's steady hand and nurturing heart. In distinct ways. Suzanne Gaither Jennings, the eldest, has long been involved in the Gaither business and ministry operations. Working behind the scenes with her parents, Suzanne helped manage Gaither family resources and co-wrote several songs with her mother, including notable homecoming favorites. More than just a collaborator, Suzanne has carried the Gaither vision into the Next generation, merging business acumen with a deep respect for their musical and spiritual legacy. Amy Gaither Hayes, the middle child, took a creative path of her own. A poet, actress, and teacher, Amy inherited her mother's love for language and literature. She has spoken openly in interviews about the intellectual richness of her upbringing, how dinner conversations were often theological, artistic, and curious in nature. She once said, "Mom didn't just want us to be good Christians. She wanted us to be thinkers, to ask questions, to know why we believed what we believed." Benjamin Gaither, the youngest, followed in his father's musical footsteps. A producer and songwriter, Ben co-founded Liviorn Media and has worked closely with his parents on many homecoming projects. His music is more contemporary, but it carries the same foundation: truth, family, and faith. All three children speak of their mother with reverence, not just as a parent, but as a role model. They recall her patience during the hectic years of touring, her late-night writing sessions after putting them to bed, and her habit of turning everyday moments into spiritual lessons. Family vacations weren't extravagant, but they were sacred. Time together was protected.